The last one.
It better be Rory going to his knees.
I think you know where we're going here. Me winning my flight in the Hustlers member guest.
Number one. Number 33 on the field, number 1 in our hearts, Chad Bum, everybody. All right, Golf Sickos, welcome into another episode of the Vanity Index podcast. Chad, I need to know, how is National?
Wells, it's good to be back here with you, my friend. National Golf Links remains one of the greatest places in all of golf. Just an absolute, it's like the perfect mix of history, tradition, a fast, firm, fun golf course that needs no updating ever. It's just like it's as perfect now as it probably was in the day that the first, pieces of dirt were moved to put that thing in. And this we had great weather, which is always good. I mean, it's this time of year in the Hamptons, so it's just like perfect weather. Took a little dip in the Peconic Bay after the first round, which is apparently a tradition that I've missed out on in the past. You play around a golf, drive a golf cart down across the driving range. There's a little hole in the fence. Go out and jump into the bay. So took a little spin through the bay. Had my fair share of south sides, as you're want to do, and ate a little bit of lobster and played some pretty good golf. We played 2 rounds. I think in the first round I hit the ball great and couldn't make a putt. Second round, couldn't hit the ball, but made every putt I looked at. So, didn't embarrass myself. We had a great time. The group of guys that we were with were just like, it's just the coolest group. So I had a lot of fun. I do have a story from the first round we played. So the format of this event, actually, it's a novel format. I've never really played anything quite like this before. So basically, it's kind of a tournament, but it's each day. So you have your foursome. I think there was maybe we had 8 foursomes, and the money, you put in $100 and all the money goes to the staff. So even if you win, you basically just hand it and give it as a tip to the staff. So not the highest stakes thing ever, but the format was pretty fun. So you play a team. So, your foursome, it's a net best ball for the first 9 holes, but the 9th hole, you have to use 1 club. So the 9th hole National is a par 5. It's like a pretty short par 5. So call it, 490 yards. So you had to use 1 hole. Everybody had to use 1 club for the entire hole on the 9th hole. And you take, one shot, your best score from your foursome for the first 9. Then on the second 9, you have to take 2 scores out of the 4 to up until the 15th hole. So then 15, 16, and 17, you have to take 3 scores. And then 18, you have to take all 4 scores, which was a really fun way to play a tournament because you can play great the whole time. But then when you got to take all 4, it's like, wheels can come off. So you're kind of always in it till the very last, which was pretty fun. So we get to 18, and 18 at National Golf Links is, in my opinion, one of the best finishing holes in the world. It's up against the bay. It's kind of the one hole that's really on the water. The beautiful old clubhouse is, right there in your view on the left side of the fairway. There's the parking lot where all the cars are. And it's a par 5. You got to kind of have to bust a driver to the right of this bunker, and then it's kind of a blind second shot. Green's very reachable in 2. I hit iron into it in 2 both days. But the green's up on this kind of mound, so if you pull it left, it'll run off down 30 feet, 40 yards. And then if you're right, you're dead. So it's a really perfectly designed par 5. So we get to 18 the first day, and one of the guys in our groups who was driving it really well all day just snap hooks it. And that ball is screaming at a really nice Mercedes-Benz that's parked at the very edge of the parking lot. And our host, his 2 sons were playing with us in the event, and one of his sons happened to be in our group that day. And as the ball's screaming left, the guy who hits it goes, "Oh my God, I might hit a car." And while the ball's in the air, our host's son goes, "Oh my God, that's my dad's car." So this ball misses our host's car by has to be 6 inches. Just goes screaming right across the hood. Ends up in the main lawn on the front side of the clubhouse. So this guy's got to go either pitch it, what the logical thing would do is like to hit and he's got, by the way, he's got a nice line, some like fluffy grass, but the clubhouse is between him and the green. You could play left and go down to the first fairway and kind of hit back across. The smart thing to do would have been to pitch out 90 degrees right, get yourself back in the fairway. He was getting a bop, get up there and make your 6 for 5. But he decides that he's going to give it a run with a 3-wood. And in his mind, he could hit a high draw, but he's got to carry the corner of the clubhouse. So, why would you lay up? It's only one of the oldest and nicest clubhouses in the entire world of golf. Yeah. Windows everywhere. He's like, no, I can make it over the corner. So we're all standing there. We decide it's probably a good idea to pull the phone out. And so he takes a mighty lash, absolutely flushes it. You can hear how flushed it was from like 75 yards away where I was standing. But the member's son was maybe 25, 30 feet to the right of him, filming this whole thing. Perfect contact, balls in the air, arcing super high with an obvious draw. Boom! Hits the top corner of the clubhouse. Comes screaming back, eye level at the member's son now, who's filming. He hits the deck. It misses hitting the member's son, our host's son, by, again, a foot. And this thing was like still going really fast as it was coming back. So he hits the deck. And the ball ends up all the way back down at the bottom of the fairway, basically by the tee box where he started. We got it on video. He hits driver off the deck, 8-iron onto the green, and then leaves his par putt on the edge. So it was almost the greatest par of all time. No noticeable damage to the National Golf League's clubhouse, but both the host's son and his nice car were almost victims of a very aggressive swing off the tee and then a miraculous attempt at a recovery shot.
No damage to the clubhouse, maybe a little damage to the ego. I need to see that video. Now, I have to ask you, when you were at National, did you buy anything from the clubhouse?
No, actually, I didn't.
Okay.
There was a little on the first tee. There was a couple of there was some like stuff set out that you could grab, and I did grab a nice like ball marker from NGLA. The last year I was there, I got a visor. I got a tour visor, which I wear all the time. And the year before, I bought a hat, I think, that I'll also wear all the time. But now that I've kind of been back and hopefully get invited back to this thing again, I kind of feel like it's a little bit over the top if I go in there and start dropping a bunch of coin on a club that I'm not a member of. And my whole opinion of this has shifted a lot over the years. And but I did not buy anything this year and didn't feel like that I needed to. But it's become apparently a topic of conversation on the internet. So maybe a nice transition into our favorite segment. All right, now it's time for a little segment that we like to call Can't Knock It, brought to you by Knock Around, proud partner of the Vanity Index podcast. These guys make seriously great shades, and now they're the official eyewear of the PGA Tour.
They also make a wide selection of performance shades designed to heighten contrast and definition and actually help you see the greens more clearly. It's wild how much detail you can pick up with these things. They're awesome.
If you want to try a pair, head over to knockaround.com/golf and use the code VanityIndex20 for 20% off your first order. Again, that's VanityIndex20 for 20% off. Some exclusions apply, but definitely worth checking it out. All right, let's set this thing up, my man.
Okay, tell me about it.
Okay, so before we get into this, I got to explain a little bit of context for everybody who's not super online the way that I am. So there is a thing on Twitter. It's very unique to Twitter called the burnerverse. And this kind of, as far as I can tell, this got started in SEC football, where a bunch of like rich kids create these like burner accounts where they post anonymously, them flying PJs to SEC games and talking about girls and their, various like wealth porn things, but in the context of college football for whatever reason. It's sort of a SEC thing. And over the last year and a half, there's been a robust burnerverse that has emerged in the world of golf. And they all have like funny names. I think my favorite is, this guy's been doing it for a long time, but the Antifaldo guy is like one of my favorites. So shout out to Antifaldo is one of the best. There's Fred Ridley's burners. There's Masters burner. There's a bunch of them. There's a couple new ones. One of my favorites is Make That VJ Sing.
Yeah.
Which is a really good one. I like this one a lot. And so they're just constantly kind of posting stuff on the internet and really defending what I think is the ethos of the Vanity Index, which is sort of the country club life. But they have very strong opinions. And so this week we had it also overlaps with the kind of like hall culture, and I'd say like the top 100 culture. There's a guy, Rick Golfs 100 or Rick 100, Rick Golfs, who does, he's been sort of collecting top 100. So he posts a lot about like playing at these top 100 places and how he got on and things like that. And so the burnerverse and the sort of top 100 collectors, they're like in the same universe, but they butt heads all the time because the top 100 collectors are always like posting these pro shop hauls and talking about, how to get on as a guest at all these big places. And then the burnerverse is very much like their tagline is like #shrink, like shrink the game. They're sort of like anti-Barstool, anti-good, anti-big letter hats, defending the kind of Zins and high tour visors, which is near and dear to my heart for sure. And so, I was waiting on the internet, I've been waiting for a long time for these two kind of micro communities on Twitter to kind of finally butt heads, and we got some real drama this week. All right, so what you're seeing here is a screenshot of a post, not from the burnerverse, but from the sort of top 100 verse, of a user named Mikey Shorts Lasassy, who was a guest. Was he unaccompanied? We don't know, but he was a guest at Sleepy Hollow, and he posted this image. Pro Shop was never safe, with this massive haul of gear from Sleepy Hollow, and this set the burnerverse on fire. This is the definition of #shrink, and it created this argument. It was a trending topic on Twitter for a while. Pro Shop haul, which is a thing I never thought I'd say. And you've got top 100 Rick here, Rick Golfs, as we've been talking about. This is his kind of defense. So if you scroll up, you can kind of see Rick's defense of the Mikey Shorts merch haul. He said that some kid went to an event there and bought everything. He got ridiculed so hard that he ended up deleting his account. So this guy, Mikey Shorts Lasassy, no longer on Twitter, ended up having to delete it. So Rick comes out and says, listen, I'm only spending this kind of money at Augusta. But what do I care what someone buys at a pro shop? The club makes money. Club Pro often makes money. Brands sell more merch. Who loses? Who cares? Is this kid spoiled? Probably not my concern. Lucky him. Buy whatever you want. In real life, nobody cares what logos you wear. At most, it's a conversation starter. Most of the time, you won't even be noticed. So this post has over 100 comments, nearly 300,000 views, and kicked off an argument about how we all feel about a merch haul. So I think this one's really near and dear to our hearts, Wells, because we spent a whole episode talking about logos and the sort of logo rules.
Yep.
Something that I probably think way too much about. But we never really talked about pro shop hauls. And so I'm curious what your move is if you get invited to a bucket list course. Are you rating the pro shop? Are you kind of getting logoed everything? I also always wonder, like, are these people wearing this stuff? Are they selling it on eBay? Is it's like a rite of passage to go and spend, because by the way, looking at this image, that is not $1,000 worth of stuff. That's probably closer to $5,000 worth of stuff. So what's the game plan here, and how do you do it?
I agree. This is egregious. You can't do this. And I think I saw someone tweet something to the effect of, if you want to be invited back, you can't do this, because if you do this, there's no way they'll invite you back. Like, act like you've been there before. So I agree. Now, obviously, it's one thing to get like 5 different items, but this is like 50 different items. So I do think that this is disgusting, and this is a man who knows he's never coming back. I think at this one was Sleepy Hollow. This man knows he's never coming back, so this is his like last-ditch effort. Now, I wonder if there's 2 caveats. Like, I wonder if you can do it at Augusta, because there's a good chance you never come back, even if you are in good standing with, whoever brought you out there. And maybe Cyprus. Like, maybe those are the 2 that you could do it at, but I actually think only Augusta, mainly because there's a big difference between the Augusta National logo and the Masters logo. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I think you can only get like 5 things, and one of them needs to be for your wife so she's not angry at you. and one of them needs to be for your buddy or something, and that's about it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think the Masters and Augusta both. I think there's no limits. Obviously the limit is what you're willing to put on the old Amex or Visa. Mainly also, and by the way, because going to the Masters is always, that's hard enough, right? Even just getting a ticket to go to the Masters, say you lottery in, let alone like playing at Augusta National Golf Club, like just even going to the Masters, that might be like a once in a lifetime experience for people. And that logo is so recognizable and so tasteful. I think people go and kind of have that same attitude. Look, this might be my only time ever coming, and we're just talking about the Masters now. And you see the entire kind of shop, the Masters shopping experience is obviously been covered ad nauseum, and you see people with their giant, carrying their giant bags of goods. But I think a lot of that is really meant to be gifted, and then you also get, because you can only buy Masters gear like at the Masters itself, I think there's also this like scarcity element. And so that a lot of friends will be like, okay, hey, get me a polo, get me a hat. I know certainly the first few years that we were doing Full Swing when I was there, I was leaving with like over $1,000 worth of stuff, but it was always kind of buying things for other people. It was like my dad be like, hey, grab me a hat. My grandfather, get me a quarter zip. Friends, hey, grab me a head cover, that kind of stuff. When I went back to play there, I had a kind of the opposite feeling because I'm in the actual pro shop, and I was like, I don't want to be that guy like stunting around with like a ANGC shirt. And so I decided to, I thought way too much about what I would get in the pro shop. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up buying what my decision-making process was basically like, I want to buy the most ostentatious and like dumb thing to buy from Augusta National if I am going to sort of flex that logo. And we've talked about this before. It's like, it can't be the putter cover, unless you went low, obviously. Yeah. Never a driver cover, because that's like, you're not a member there. That's reserved for your club. You could talk yourself into like a 5-wood. I think even a 3-wood cover is a little too much, but like a 5-wood or a hybrid, I think is like appropriate.
Shut up! You can't discern between the different fairway metals here.
No. Yeah, you absolutely can't. In my bag, it's always the 5-wood that gets the club. When I'm a guest, that's where so I've had a hoopie on there. I've had Peachtree on there. I've had Cypress on there. The 5-wood's the one that kind of is the rotating where I've played, example. That's where I put that. 3-wood, again, egregious. Like, you can't do it, 'cause sometimes I hit that off the tee, all right? Like, it's too close to the driver for me. So anyway, and then, a towel I think is nice. But what I decided to do was buy a cover for my alignment rods, which is, I think, like the most over the top and egregious, but also, I think, fair game. So I have my ANGC, kind of alignment rod cover, which, by the way, I never ever pull it out because I never really use alignment rods. So, it's just really there as like as a little signpost aesthetics, but it brings the whole bag together, honestly. And it is a nice talking point.
By the way, the irony of having the alignment stick cover with ANGC on it is that famously they don't want you to hit a lot of balls on the range. There, you're not practicing at ANGC.
No, the irony is if you somehow get on at Augusta and you pull an alignment rod out on the range, like, you're going to be escorted off the property. Yeah. So I think that also was why I thought that was a particularly funny and over the top thing to get. And by the way, it does occur to me that as I'm saying these things about the rules, I'm taking a sip out of my water bottle, which has the Pine Valley logo on it. Oh, God. Yeti water bottle that I'm drinking out of right now, so I recognize the hypocrisy of this whole conversation. But I do agree with you. Like, bucket list courses, I think for me the Pro Shop Hall thing is kind of like, if you're just purely thinking about it from like a, hey, you want to be invited back and don't embarrass your host. I think rules don't apply for ANGC. Rules don't apply for Cypress. Yeah. I'd say that's kind of about it in terms of a place where you're kind of invited out, because those two logos are quite recognizable. And even if the Augusta sort of club logo is not as recognizable, that's at least like a story, and people would be like, what is that? I think if you're going to a public course,
Yeah.
And my opinion is buy everything. Like
Yeah,
Pebble,
I was
people
going to say
go the Pebble Pro Shop.
or Old Course. I feel like that's fair game for get as
Go
much
nuts.
stuff as you can.
Go nuts. I mean, even like Bandon,
Yeah.
I think like go nuts at Bandon, Whistling Straits, go nuts. That's like all these TPC Sawgrass, like another one. These public courses that people might recognize, like go ham. I think it's when you're a guest, in a club that is kind of it could be kind of egregious. Now, in defense of our good friend Mikey Shorts Lasassy here, the Sleepy Hollow logo is top tier. Like that is an S tier logo. If anything, I think in our rankings of logos, like that's top 5. Like the Headless Horseman is an elite logo. So I can appreciate that. But my question is, what is he going to do with all this stuff? Is this just like giving it out? Is he going to sell it on eBay? Like I don't really know. But yeah, you show up as a guest. The other thing too, the other important caveat for this debate is it came to light in the Twitter comments on this post that he actually wasn't even a guest. He was there for an event. So there was a hosted event by some organization or group that brought in a lot of people. So he's not even like he's embarrassing a member in this situation. So I'm gonna actually say if this was a kind of outing, then this is totally fair game because the club has already said, hey, we're gonna bring a bunch of non-members out. We don't have members playing with them. There's probably a member that like vouched for the group, obviously, to like bring them out. But that's a great way for the pro shop to make a bunch of money, sell a bunch of stuff. That at some clubhouses, some pro shops, that money does go in some piece to the head pro or to the pro staff. So if it's an outing, I think it's fair game. If you want to go drop $5,000 at an outing, go for it. But if you were there with a member, like if he had been, a guest of a member, I think that's probably a little egregious, and it's going to start, maybe raising some eyebrows of like, oh, this is like act like you've been there before.
Fair enough.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the Old Course, and one of the most interesting things about being at St. Andrews is there's 5 different logos, and that I think is one thing that the Old Course could do a lot better with. And apparently they just revamped their logo, so I don't know if you've seen the new Old Course logo, Wells, but I'm gonna just throw this at you and see what you think. So here we go. Recently redone. What do we think of this logo?
What did it used to be?
I think it was the one at the top right. So I remember going there for the Open Championship.
I thought it was top left.
It might be top left. I think these are all the old logos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a new logo compared to the previous marks in the course history. So I think you're right. I think it was the dragon thing
holding
the
flag.
pin flag.
Yeah.
But I remember going there for the Open Championship and going into the actual the St. Andrews Pro Shop, and they had obviously like logos from all the different courses. But there's like a St. Andrews Links logo, which is not the Old Course logo, which is also pretty confusing. And then there's the Old Course logo, which was the top left kind of dragon thing. But then if you go into like the town and you go to like Ochterlanny's or any of these golf shops, like they also have different St. Andrews logos. And it's like St. Andrews Links or St. Andrews Golf Club or, Royal NH and all this stuff. And there's the famous sort of tiger, crew neck that he bought there when he was playing as an amateur. So it is already pretty confusing. And then now they revamped the logo to have that the iconic sort of bridge over the Swilkenburn on 18. And, maybe this one will stick, but I don't know. I don't love it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I hate it. The Old Course is great because it's old. And if you all of a sudden start putting new stuff on something that's old, then it kind of takes away from its charm. So whatever the original logo was, that needs to be the logo, and that needs to be the end of the conversation. To me.
Yeah, it's shocking to me. Like if I told you to just even a casual golfer to pick out if we took all the names off of this, right? Say there's no words underneath it, and I showed you the logo for the Masters, and I showed you the logo for Pebble Beach, and I showed you the logo for TPC Sawgrass, or for you'd probably be able to recognize all of those. But I don't think anybody could recognize the Old Course logo, new or old. Like if I showed you that dragon holding the 17 flag, I wouldn't say that was Old Course.
Yeah.
And how does the Old Course not have an iconic logo that everybody in the world of golf knows? Like, what's going on over there? What are they doing in Scotland?
Figure it out, Royal and Ancient.
Exactly. Come on, St. Andrews Links. What are you guys doing?
Well, speaking of people from across the pond, the Ryder Cup is coming up very, very soon. And, I think there's two kind of big stories about this. One, like what's Keegan going to do? Who are his picks going to be? Is it going to include him? And then the other one is the way that Vegas is viewing this, right? Like a lot of people, even though it's a home game, even though it's going to have a bunch of crazy New Yorkers there, are saying that the Europeans are the stronger team. And I can't disagree with that, just looking at least at who we know is going to be playing compared to the Americans. And I wanted to get your thoughts, obviously, because this is a huge storyline every year for Full Swing. You're so ingrained in this. You're friends with Keegan Bradley and a lot of the players. So your thoughts on the Ryder Cup this year, the Battle at Bethpage. Also, is that the name of it? Because it should be. That sounded pretty awesome. Just came up with it.
I think that sounds pretty good. There's so much ink that gets spilled talking about the Ryder Cup. The reality is, over the entire last, I think there's a stat, I think it's in the last sort of 60 years or however long it's been, that the difference between the two sides in the Ryder Cup is something like, less than 10 points.
Yeah. So
the reality is, no matter who's playing, who's favored, it's been over the years very close, if you look at it kind of in aggregate. And so much of success of the Ryder Cup is really dictated by where it's being played. It's very hard to win on the road. And that it happened a few times, in the sort of 90s and 2000s, but it hasn't happened now, I think the U.S. hasn't won in Europe for 30 years, but Europe hasn't won in the U.S. for, it's been a long time. And so much of that, I think, is because the way that we have all this data now and all these golfers, we have all this performance data. And so the host team gets to set up the golf course to privilege its players. And when you're talking about, the sort of 24 of the best players in the world, ultimately, like, the margins are razor thin anyway, just between those players. And so gaining an advantage by setting up the course to kind of statistically advantage your team over the course of 3 days and all of those matches, like, will actually make a difference. And so I think on paper, even actually if you look at like the data around the teams, I think the USA team has just got more depth. I think it's going to end up being a more even match just than the kind of odds makers are saying. And I think the advantage just has to sit with the home team, just given the environment and especially how kind of toxic Bethpage is going to be and aggressive Bethpage is going to be. But so who's going to win? I think you got to take the Americans, just given the looking at history and seeing how much of an advantage home team is in the Ryder Cup. And I would love to see Keegan get it done, whether he picks himself or not. As I love Luke Donald, and he and I have spent a bunch of time together. He's already a champion. I don't think his legacy is diminished much by losing at an away game. He's already, he was an unexpected pick to be the captain. It was supposed to be Henrik Stenson. He came in and took the reins and absolutely beat an amazing American team in Rome. And so I think you look at, like, Keegan is the one who has the most to lose here. He was an unexpected pick as well. He wasn't really in the Ryder Cup system per se. He hasn't been groomed to be a captain, never been a President's Cup captain, never been an assistant captain. And so, it was an out of left field pick. But him, getting that win, he's from the Northeast. I think Keegan has the most to gain, but also I think the most to lose. If he can't get it done, that will be, that'll be a big deal. It'll be really hard for him. So I know the pressure is on for him in a big, big way.
Should he pick himself or no?
I think he should.
You do?
And I think he should, just because he's played well enough to put himself in that, he's not even top 12, he's top 10. And I think that just for sheer cinema and because it's awesome, like, do it. I mean, how often in the last, since, I guess, Arnold Palmer, has that been an option? And that era with Arnold Palmer was like a totally different era. I think it would just be awesome. And obviously, great TV, great for ratings, great cinema. And, like, if they're going to go on and win, like, why not pick yourself and just be able to say, I both played and captained us to a victory.
Yeah.
I think the upside actually outweighs the downside, because he's going to get roasted if they lose anyway, whether he picked himself or not. Now, if he picks himself and he doesn't win a single point, then yeah, that's going to make it a little bit worse, but I don't think it'll make it that much worse. And I think if they win and he's on the team, it just becomes one of the great golf stories of all time.
Yeah, I wonder if he does pick himself, which I do think he will, if he plays himself sparingly in it, right? Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't need to play. He doesn't need to be out there every single match. Obviously, he probably needs to be out in the field coaching. So I agree with you in terms of like the producer in me. I'm like, this is such great television, great story. It raises the stakes. And then kind of what we were talking with Jimmy Roberts last week about like, you know, it only matters to us if we can tell it matters to them. And like, if you're picking yourself, you know it matters to him. So yeah, I think it's super interesting. The other thing that like I wonder if it will make a difference, because I do agree with you that home field advantage is a huge advantage, right? But this is the one place on American soil that is, I think, the closest to the away team's home, right? Like, if you're coming from Europe, you're going to New York, right? And then
All these guys live in Florida.
I know. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about home field advantage has to do with the fans that are there. And so the idea is that it's going to be all Americans, so it's going to be able to get into the heads of the Europeans. But you're also doing it in a state that is the most diverse melting pot city that we have, with the most amount of Europeans, Irish, English, Scottish people living. So my thought is, and then you have Boston, who's just like just a bunch of Irish people there anyways. My thing is that I don't know if it's going to be that much of an advantage being American at this venue.
I hadn't even thought about the Europe showing out. I think that it's to go back to your point. I think I agree that Keegan's probably going to play himself sparingly. I would imagine they would if I'm just kind of thinking about it rationally, my guess is he probably wouldn't play at all on the first day, because it's like, hey, you get out there and let's see how we're doing. And then I think you send yourself out early the second day, like in maybe the second group. I don't think you ever want to be the first tee shot. You know, certainly don't want to be the first tee shot off the box of the Ryder Cup period when you're the playing captain. So I think he probably sits himself on day one. I think he goes out early day two, maybe in the second group. And then obviously you got to go win your singles match. And just imagine how, like, the universe has been smiling on me at full swing now for the last 4 years with all the drama that we've had. There's going to be a world where Keegan Bradley could win the deciding point in the Ryder Cup. Because he already did it. He made the winning putt at the President's Cup. Mm-hmm. And why not, just like let the universe smile on us once more and give Keegan his win. Let him win a decisive point in singles. And I just think if you're Keegan Bradley and you're thinking about your entire legacy in your career, these guys they're confident Type A athletes. And you have put yourself in the top 10 to be on this team in terms of points. It's your dream. You're already the captain. Like, the upside of picking yourself, betting on yourself, and being a player captain that wins, to me, is worth the risk of the downside, where you pick yourself and you don't perform and it gets second guessed, because people are going to second guess every decision anyway. So I'm like, bet on yourself, Keegs.
You can't talk about the American team without talking about the best player in the world right now in Scottie Scheffler. It seems like Scottie Scheffler is starting to do some really crazy things in front of us. And maybe he's been doing it for so long, so that's why it hasn't been so jarring. But last week at the BMW on the 17th hole, he's 4 strokes behind Bobby Mack. And to be honest with you, like, that seems like a fair handicap in this world, which is a crazy thing to say when the margins between how good these guys are so razor thin. But going into the final round, you're sitting there thinking, like, he's going to make this up, and he'll probably make it up by the turn. On 17, he bails out left, a green he never hit in regulation, but played in 1 under. He said in his post-round interview that he thought that that's where the pin placement was going to be on Sunday, so he dropped a bunch of balls, so he kind of knew what the shot he needed to hit on 17. And then lo and behold, the slowest chip in the history of golf, I feel like, happens, and all of a sudden it's like, well, this is over now. And it was at that moment, you said something kind of early on when we started doing the podcast that Scotty doesn't have a lot of like career defining moments like Tiger did. He doesn't have the like better than most, and he doesn't have like it's not a fair fight. Like he doesn't have these kind of like iconic moments that Tiger did, and he's this guy that's being compared to arguably the greatest ball striker to have ever lived. And it was at that moment, and when you brought it up, I said, well, the Olympics is one that I remember. Like that was a crazy shot, that like 3-wood that like kind of closed it out. But you're right, Chad. Like he doesn't have a lot of these career defining moments. And I see this on 17, and I commented on, Golf Digest or whatever. I was like, and I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. I hate watching ESPN and watching these guys just kind of like drone on and just completely being captivated by the moment. But I said, he's starting to do Tiger stuff. And it felt that way. It was, holy crap, he just chipped in. This thing's over. And I want to get your thoughts on it.
I couldn't agree more. And we've been talking about this. That's a great like post round having a beer discussion is like, can you name an iconic Scotty Scheffler shot? And the two that always get brought up are the late like wood that he hit to kind of ice the Olympics, and then the chip in at the third hole the first time he won the Masters, because that was like, that was like Cam Smith was playing great. He was the defending Open champion, and that kind of like put Scotty in the driver's seat and then led to his first green jacket. But this one, hands down, like is the first iconic Scotty Scheffler shot. And then it's a shot that you are going to see in promos for the PGA Tour for the rest of time. Like it will be up there with all of those other shots. And the coolest part about it was so obvious to the entire world that this was an iconic Scotty Scheffler shot. And I think the world was waiting for it. I mean, you saw like tweets from Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James immediately, clearly were watching the golf live. And I think for like casual sports fans, like this is a top 10 play, like on SportsCenter, like this is everywhere. Like even general sports accounts were posting it because of the drama of the ball rolling really slowly into the green and the kind of inevitability. And these are, if you're like a casual sports fan, you've been hearing about how great Scotty Scheffler is now for the last like 2 years. But you haven't seen any highlights. Well, now you got your highlight. But I can't wait to see him like ice one with a big putt on the last hole, because you'll see it all flood because he doesn't need to, go hit another tee shot. But yes, I agree. We finally have our definitive Scotty Scheffler shot. And talking about the highlights, I was just at a PGA Tour event. I've been at East Lake all week, and it's the Tour Championship, so it's kind of like the last hurrah for all the PGA Tour execs, and they always do like a state of the tour press conference. This was sort of Brian Rolapp, the new CEO. It was kind of his rollout as well of kind of his agenda, and announced a bunch of really interesting stuff, which we can talk about. I ended up actually meeting Brian and very, very impressed and excited about the future of the PGA Tour. But they did this partner session. All their kind of advertisers and sponsors were kind of in a big room. And at the beginning of it, they roll a highlight reel. And I was thinking as it started, it kind of starts with like Rory winning at the, at Pebble, and there's just all these big highlights from the season. And I'm like, I wonder if they're going to show the chip in. And like, of course they do. So it's like the last thing, you see that chip and the music's pumping. It's like the PGA Tour. And I was like, oh yeah, no, this will be in that rip reel now till the end of time. So congrats to Scotty. This actually reminds me, I know, last episode you introduced a new segment that I thought was kind of fun, where we did a little blind ranking. And I have actually put together a blind ranking for you, Wells. And so I want to maybe jump into that right now and say, are you ready for a little blind ranking?
I would love to. And by the way, just a little teaser, I've got a blind ranking for you that we're going to do at the end of the show.
Come on, baby. Okay, so here we go. Blind ranking what I'm saying the best moments from the PGA Tour season in 2025. We sit here, by the time this episode comes out, Tour Championship will have been wrapped. The PGA Tour season will be over. And so as a bit of a way to recap, and I'm taking, by the way, a bit of a broad lens on what I define as the best moments from the PGA Tour season. So I'm just going to throw this at you. So here we go. Blind ranking best moments from the 2025 PGA Tour season. Okay. Up first, Rory's shot on number 15 at the Masters, his second shot from the left side.
Well, I assume that Rory making the putt in the playoff and him falling to his knees will be in this as well. And I feel like that moment is more spectacular than that shot on 15. But that shot on 15 was pretty great. I'm going to go with 4.
All right, up next, 72nd hole at the U.S. Open.
I knew this was coming. JJ Spawn.
JJ Spawn, 60-something feet away to close it out.
Number 2, JJ Spawn. That was wild.
Love that.
Exactly. You know what I like about some of these moments? I know exactly where I was at that moment. My wife was doing a Broadway show. She had some, like, party that we had to go to afterwards, so she's with all her actor friends at the bar drinking, and I'm sitting there with the cell phone leaning up against my old-fashioned with 3 other dudes of whom I do not know, watching the end of that, being like, holy crap, he made it. So number 2, JJ.
Love it. Okay, so up next, we've got Justin Thomas's putt in the playoff at RBC Heritage to get back in the winner's circle again, beating Andrew Novak in a playoff.
JT, I mean, I'm glad he's back in the winner's circle, but, like, of the moments, I don't know. I'm going to say that's 9.
All right, up next, Scotty Scheffler bringing the claret jug to the Happy Gilmore 2 red carpet.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And I think you can also kind of like loop that into him going on Fallon as well with it. Like that was all kind of like one evening. That's pretty good. I'm gonna go with 5 on that.
Okay. All right, so there might be a little bit of recency bias on this next one, but I couldn't leave it off. So this is Ben Griffin overdosing on creatine.
Yeah. Which I didn't know you could do, by the way.
The BMW.
I do love his candor with this post-round interview. I didn't know that you could overdose on creatine. And also, like, I'm sitting there being like, is this against the rules somehow? Like, should you be telling people this? I'm going to go with 10, but I do love the creatine one.
I had to throw it in there because that's just too good. Okay, up next, we have, this is kind of a compilation, but Rory's drives on number 14 at Pebble Beach.
Okay. As someone who's played Pebble Beach a lot, that par 5 is almost impossible to get to into. And so much so that I got to the front edge in 2 from like up tees, by the way, and I remember my caddy saying, I've never seen anyone do this. So seeing what he did, we're going over the corner there, and then I think he had 7-iron in, which is wild. And also, you have marine layer, the heavy air, it was like soggy and wet, like all of the things I remember, and this was the kind of the beginning of the year where we were like, Rory could just win everything. I love that one. I'm going to go with 6.
All right. This one's another a little out of left field one.
Okay.
I'm going to give you Trent Ryan from Barstool's 17th hole during the Creator Classic.
Yeah, why would you do that to him? Why wouldn't you do him breaking 90 and then getting a plaque in the ground? I saw they recently went and did that. Oh, God dang it. Okay, well, I love Trent. He's a good man. I'm going to go with 8 on that.
Okay, I like that. I think that's good.
Yeah. I will say this. I will say this about Trent. He is so good for the game. He's one of those people that I like all the Barstool guys over there, but he is someone who's so relatable, so nice, doesn't take himself too seriously, and is allowing a lot of people to make fun of him. And I think that he is a great steward for like new people coming into the game. 2 thumbs up for Trent.
Love that. Okay, so we've got 3 left, and just to give you a sense of the board here,
I've got them all marked down.
I was gonna say, you still don't have a 1, still don't have a 3,
yep,
and you still don't have a 7.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Ooh, all right. So next up, this is the duel that everyone was waiting for at the beginning of the year: Bryson versus Rory, final round at the Masters.
I'm going to okay, so it didn't live up to what we wanted it to, right? Like, it should have been Rosie or it should have been Scotty, the guys who actually made runs. And then Bryson afterwards kind of complaining that he didn't talk to him, kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't like anything about it, so I'm going to go with 7 on that.
Okay, I think you're going to be really happy with your decision
good.
on that one.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty, 17th hole at the BMW Championship, pulls his iron shot left of the green. He's got a chip to an impossible pin position straight down the hill out of thick rough. That ball gets on the green, starts trundling slowly, and becomes Scotty Scheffler's first true iconic moment. Where do you put it?
I feel comfortable with this one. This is number 3. It wasn't a major, so I can't put it at number 1. It can't go above J.J. Spaun making that crazy putt on 18 to win. So 3 I feel good about. But it is iconic, and it will be a shot that is played for years to come.
All right. Well, so the last one.
It better be Rory going to his knees.
I think you know where we're going here. It's me winning my flight in the Hustlers Never Guessed.
Number 1. Number 33 on the field, number 1 in our hearts, Chad Bum, everybody.
No, I'm kidding. It's Rory sinking the winning putt at Augusta to win the Masters, complete the Grand Slam, and fall to his knees. I think I know where this one's going.
There's only one place it can go. It's number 1, and I was hoping that it was going to be in here, because if it wasn't, then I would be embarrassed. But, yeah, it's an easy number 1. And I feel pretty good about this list, actually. Number 1 being Rory doing something that hasn't been done in a long time, and only being the 6th person to have ever done it. And then also the way he did it was just so annoying and fun to watch. 2, J.J. Spaun. Turning into like a huge J.J. Spaun fan after having Malto on the show, saying that he's the only golfer on tour that can do a kickflip, and then watching him make that putt was so cool. Number 3, Scotty at 17, I think is iconic. We'll be watching that forever. Number 4, I'm good with this. Rory at 15. That shot is insane and like the most Rory thing in the world. Number 5, Scotty taking the claret jug to the Happy Gilmore premiere is pretty iconic, I have to say. Number 6, Rory at Pebble. That shot on that par 5 is ridiculous. Number 7, Bryson being in the last round of the Masters. It could have been so much more, but it just wasn't. He just wilted there. Number 8, Trent Ryan just being a great guy, and I love him to death. Number 9, Justin Thomas being a winner on the PGA Tour is good for everybody, and it's good for the PGA Tour brand. That's awesome. And number 10, Ben Griffin overdosing on creatine is pretty fantastic. I feel good about that list.
I think that is if I just showed you those and you asked them to rank them, I think you would have gotten it perfect. But it's hard as you get late because you don't want to give away the good ones too early. But I think you crushed that, Wellesley.
But I think that if there has never been a more Vanity Index podcast blind ranking than this, I don't know what it is, okay? So this is the blind ranking of the signs of a nice country club. So
yes.
I was in the cigar room the other day, and we were talking about the things that every really good country club has. And so this was overheard, presented by JLab. From the lab to the course, Lab Tech is trusted by the pros with gear engineered in the lab, built for every practice, every flight, and every moment you need to lock in. If you guys can see, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can see that I'm actually using the JLab microphone right here. This travel mic is awesome. It fits perfectly in my bag. It sounds amazing. And JLab delivers headphones, earbuds, and Bluetooth speakers designed for life and respects your budget. Look for the blue box at retailers everywhere or shop jlab.com. All right, Chad, it's time for the blind ranking. Signs of being at a nice country club. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
All right, first one. Free branded wooden small tees and free branded metal divot tools on the first hole.
Small tees. Are we talking about like par 3 tees?
Yes. As every course has the long ones, but when you see the small ones, you know you're somewhere special.
See, to me, the small ones can also be a sign of like a new club, a little nouveau riche club.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they're wooden, though. You said they're wooden?
Wooden.
I see, like, to me, you're going to see those more often maybe out actually on the golf course at the par threes occasionally. Again, maybe a sign of a nice resort or a nouveau riche club. I'm going to go, and the metal ball marker or divot repair tools, I think are another good sign, but I've been to a lot of really nice clubs, and a lot of times they're plastic. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to throw this one at number 9.
Okay.
Since I'm not a huge fan of the small tees, as you know, I don't use the small tees. So for me, we're starting off the back of the pack.
Fair enough. 9. I love a small tee. It's like one of my favorite things in the world. I don't know why. Next one.
To each their own.
Yeah. Next one. Cell phones not allowed, so there's a cell phone room in the clubhouse or in the locker room to make calls.
This is an absolute number 2 for me.
Wow.
Straight up to the top. You can't burn one too early, but it might be close. I love this. This is like totally a sign that you're at an amazing private club. No cell phones allowed. Obviously, Augusta being kind of the apex of this, where you're not even allowed to have your cell phone on you. You're supposed to leave it, in your room. But I've so many of these awesome clubs that I've been to. They all have that kind of no phone rules. Some of them are a little more lax, where you could have your phone, maybe take a picture, do some texting. Definitely no, phones out on phone calls. Definitely not around the clubhouse. But I've been in the room. Obviously, our club has this. One of my favorite memories, I had to do a phone call at Brookline, at the country club at Brookline. They have the same thing. This tiny little room. It's clearly been in the clubhouse forever. There's a bunch of scratches on the wall from people just bored on calls, kind of scratching things out. The one that really sticks with me is San Francisco Golf Club, which I was lucky enough to play for the first time this year. They have a phone room in their locker room. Same thing, just tiny little room. But this actually has a phone jack still in it. So obviously there was a landline in there, up till fairly recently. And then there's also a phone book, a Yellow Pages phone book from 1994, still in there, which is amazing. Nobody's thought to move that in 31 years. And then, obviously in a lot of these rooms too, you'll see a little notepad, from the club's logo on the notepad with a little scoring pencil, so you can kind of take some notes. So yeah, I've got great memories. I think the 94 Yellow Pages in the SFGC phone room is up there for me, and just kind of placing you in a spot that you do not belong at a amazing private club. So yeah, this is number 2 for me.
Yeah, I remember playing at Baltusrol, and I had to call my manager for some big deal that was coming through, and so I was ushered into this room that I could take calls. And what I thought was cool about it was, same thing, they had old phones there, but then they had old correspondence from people famous guys like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus and all that kind of stuff of writing to the club, thank you for a wonderful experience or whatever. And in there, and I was oh, that's so cool, because it's a room that's about having to make conversations, and then the conversations they've got on the walls are just insane. So that's my little story for that. It's a good one. Number 2, that's a good number 2. All right, next one. This one's going to be tough, I think.
Okay.
Pro V range balls.
Ooh. Definitely the sign that you're not at a nice club, for sure. Also, for sure, the domain of only private clubs. You're not seeing this a lot, even at a resort course. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen it at a resort course. I'm going to put this at number 5.
Okay, that's a good one.
Because I've also been to some really nice private clubs that have crappy range balls.
Yeah.
It's just sort of depends. But I like this. It's always a treat for sure to have some freshies and hit some real golf balls on the range. No question.
Up next, cigar and card or dice room. Especially in states that frown upon smoking inside. Because this in Georgia is less impressive than it is in California.
Yeah. No, right. So smoking indoor room,
Yes.
Indoor smoking room. I don't smoke cigars. More of a Zyn guy, as we've well established. So This is like less of a priority for me, but it definitely is like a signpost of like a great club that's got a great energy and a good clubhouse vibe. So I don't really want to burn another top 5, so I'm going to throw this at number 6.
I think that's good. I think that's fair. Up next, this is like usually my joke. That is like, this is a sign of a good club. It's the trash can that's in the ground that you open with your foot.
Oh, that's an elite one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're a listener to the show, you've never come across this. If you think about like your average muni, if you're lucky to have a trash can on at the hole, it's usually sitting right next to the ball washer, and it's a metal tin that you throw something in, it rattles around, it gets dirty as people keep throwing their White Claws in there all day. But some of the nicer clubs, they bury it and it's like a bear trap. It's when you conceal against bears if you've ever been in bear country. And you step on it to pop it up to use the trash can. I like this one a lot. I think this deserves maybe a top 5, so I'm going to throw this at number 4.
Fair enough. There also is a hierarchy of these trash cans. There's different mechanisms that are cooler than other mechanisms, and that's getting really lost in the weeds, but, like I feel like Bel Air has like really good ones.
Bel Air has really good ones. It's like a really satisfying like pump that you step on. It pops it up. It's circular. It just dunk. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for justifying that for me.
And by the way, when you said there's like some higher end ones, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yes. Okay, good. We're on the same page here. Okay, this next one.
You know what's actually funny? Just to throw this out. So I played it at of course, it's a top 20. And they actually had the like muni ones, like the baskets, the wire basket above the ground. And the funniest part is every single one of them was empty because nobody wanted to throw anything away.
Yeah.
And a guy like walked over. He had like like an Arnold Palmer that he had finished, and he was gonna go throw it away. And like he got like a look from the caddy. He's like, let me just take that for you. And he put it in his bag instead of throwing it away. And every one of them, all 18 holes, nothing in there. And I was like, okay, maybe this is just a sign.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay.
All right, next one. Comfort stations that are run on the honor system.
I like this a lot. I haven't seen any like really top clubs do the honor system thing. It's sort of like really good, very private clubs that are kind of less well known. I've seen this a lot, where they may not have the staff to throw somebody at like a turn stand. And then you've got the like Discovery Land version of this where it's like the opposite. It's like you just take everything. It's kind of all inclusive. I like this. It's a cool sign that you're at a place where there's obviously a lot of trust and camaraderie. I'm gonna put this at number 10 because I need a number 10. So
okay. Up next. For some reason, they've got a barber and a hot shave situation happening inside the men's locker room.
Oh my God, yes. So much of my appreciation of private clubs somehow comes back to like grooming related things. So,
well, with hair like that, Chad.
Yeah, it's true. I guess, but no, it's. I like this one a lot. I'm gonna put this. Barbershop with a shave in the locker room. I'm going to put this at number... Oh, God. Yeah, I'm going to go number 3.
Up next.
God, my top 5. I'm really running out of room here.
You are. Up next. A superintendent with a cool dog that rides in the carts and chases ducks and geese away.
So I'm actually very relieved because this is one that I've seen at munis. I've seen it at private clubs. Golf dogs are elite in any such situation.
Yes,
it's such a cool part of golf that you're just like the super is allowed to have his dog there or her dog there, and they're always like a collie or something. You know, like always super well trained. They're the best. So yeah, I'm gonna put this one at number 8.
Okay.
Because not because I don't appreciate it, but because I've seen it at munis too.
All right, we're coming up here on the end. An old...
Yeah, I got 1 and 7 left, so there's a wide range here.
Yeah. An old, funny, shit-talking locker room attendant, locker room and shoe shine attendant.
Oh, God.
I feel like a lot of really nice clubs that I've gone to, there's always some guy named like Vern or something who's just talking mad shit to you after your round. and everyone loves him and tips him way too much. I don't know. That's just something that I've come across.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I had this experience this week. We were in Atlanta, played at a really exclusive club in Atlanta, and the guy who works in the locker room has just been there forever. And I had to get out of there pretty fast because I had to get back to Eastlake for a meeting. And he's like, "You need a shoe shine," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I gotta go. Like, honestly, I'm just gonna like do a quick change and get out of here." And I literally like washed my hands, changed my shirt and pants, and walked back out. He handed me my shoes perfectly clean. He's like, "Man, I can go as fast as you want." Yeah, it's amazing. So I love that guy. Didn't shit talk me too much, but I feel like if I'd have hung out, he would have. So yeah, that's an elite one. That's definitely a very private club thing. I'm comfortable with it at number 7. So let's go.
All right, last one where we know where it's going, but still.
Yep.
A specialty alcoholic beverage that you can only find at that club.
Vindicated.
Yes.
Absolutely. Number 1. Feels so good to be right and vindicated here. So this is like at the beginning of the show, we talked about being out at National Golf Links, and they have a drink there called the South Side. That's like their iconic drink. It is a secret recipe that nobody knows the recipe to. I asked. They're like, it's, good luck. It's also cool because you get a South Side and they ask you what kind of liquor you want in it. So there's like a vodka South Side. There's a rum South Side. You could get, I guess, gin theoretically, which is also kind of cool that it's got like some variation. I was going with the rum ones. They were delicious. You see this, transfusions become kind of the club drink du jour. But I think that the fact that there are clubs that have their own signature drink, our club has a signature drink named after an iconic member. It's basically just like 6 shots of tequila with an orange in it, a splash of club soda, but also iconic. So much so that it's on our head covers in our pro shop. And by the way, the member is still alive, which I think is awesome, and also like relatively young in the grand scheme of things. He's probably in his early 60s. So talk about making an impact on your club. The iconic drink, hands down. I think any like signature beverage or food stuff is kind of the mark. Like you could look at like the hamburger dogs at Olympic. That's another one. The Marion peanut butter, bacon, and jelly sandwiches. Like that's another one. But I feel extremely vindicated that this is number 1, the signature drink of the course. So good job, Wells. That was a lot of fun.
Wasn't that a good one? I was excited when I was writing that one the other day.
I thought you were going to hit me with, again, talking about personal grooming, the individual wrapped toothbrushes is always a good one.
Yeah.
Spotting some Old Bay rum, aftershave or a Pinot, talcum powder, that's another one. But I feel really good about this ranking.
Yeah, the other one that I was going to throw in like no shorts. That's usually you're at a place that's really nice if you have to wear pants. The other one is when your caddy has compressed air and blows your shoes clean and then puts the air hose in your pant leg and like dries off your balls. I don't know. It's so weird. Saying it out loud is so weird. When it happens, you're like, ooh, yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I got into an argument actually with somebody about this on the internet maybe a year and a half ago that the compressed air to blow your shoes off was kind of like a public course or nouveau riche kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I went to Oakmont and they do that at Oakmont and it's awesome. So, and they also do it at LACC and it's awesome. So I'm a fan of that one too. I think the pants thing is definitely a sign that you're at a nice club. It's also something that's always worth asking if you've ever been invited out. Most of these, little trick of the trade, most of these clubs, even the really private ones, they publish like a guest policy on their website. So you won't be able to access the actual site, but you could see their sort of guest policy. So they'll always have it listed. You see a lot of like Bermuda shorts, no cargo shorts, things like that. But yeah, there are a handful of clubs that you need to wear pants. It's funny, I've never seen that in the South. The South kind of doesn't mind. I mean, maybe Augusta, but I don't know if you're playing Augusta in the summertime either. It's closed. Yeah. So I think this is a great list, Wells. Well done. This is all my favorite things, honestly. It's just like, as a kid who grew up on Air Force golf courses in Munis and working as a cart boy, to be able to be on the other side of that and finally get to experience some of these myself is the greatest gift. I feel so lucky.
Yeah, you've changed, man. You've changed. All right, well, this has been a fun episode of the Vanity Index Podcast. Follow us on social media at Vanity Index Podcast on on Instagram. Follow us on Skratch on TikTok and Twitter, on all that. And if you have any blind rankings that you think would be good for us to do, hit us up there, DM us there as well. And we'll be back again next week for all you golf sickos out there. Later, dude.
Thanks for listening. Later, brother.